With the 15th anniversary of Minecraft, and its recent 1.21 update, I've seen a wave of new players, many of them adults, joining the community to discover how a ragtag indie game had the staying power to become a decade-and-a-half global phenomenon. But for all its charm and potential, the same sandbox style that grants it such appeal can also be a double-edged sword, with a huge learning curve for an inexperienced player. If that's you, you're in the right place, and welcome to Minecraft CavesNotes. The goal of this series is to create a library of easy-to-digest guides for understanding the basics of the Minecraft world. Things like how monsters spawn, what types of terrain and friendly creatures exist, types of movement and travel, and the physics of a world where stone stays put in midair and water can be replicated. What this guide will not do is, number 1, attempt to replace the wiki. I'll leave a link in the description in case you'd like to search up any additional information. 2, not going to tell you how to play. How you play is up to you. What I'm offering are quick start suggestions and a foundation for how the game works. You can use that information however you choose. Number 3, I won't take sides on the Java versus Bedrock debate. Minecraft was originally developed on Java, but separate versions were produced and ultimately combined for Microsoft's cross-platform play, unofficially referred to as Bedrock Edition. There are plenty of opinions on the two, but for this guide, any differences will be for informational purposes, and for most topics, the version you use won't matter. Number 4, I won't deep dive into advanced topics. This is an entry-level space. If there is an appetite for intermediate or more experienced gameplay topics, let me know, and I'll consider sequels to this project. In the meantime, feel free to check out my other videos to see what I do differently as a veteran player. And with that, let's get started on today's topic. So you've just loaded up your first Minecraft world. What do? What can you do? Well, just as in real life, before night falls, your priorities are going to be food and shelter. And while this spawn is not too bad, there are plenty others that can make life either easier or more difficult for you. If you spawn in an area with no trees, like the desert or the Badlands, I would definitely recommend leaving, as wood is one of the most essential early game resources that you can find. If you were to end up in a dark forest like this one, or in a jungle, you'll have all the resources that you need. But unfortunately, the dense canopies of these biomes mean that monsters can spawn in certain places even during the daytime, which can make these very difficult locations to start at for a beginning player. Snowy mountainous areas can be even more dangerous. Even if you're lucky enough to have trees nearby, there is a block called powder snow that has a slightly different texture than regular snow but can be difficult to spot. And if you fall into it, you will likely freeze to death. And finally, if you happen to spawn on an island, you might be okay if you have a tree and at least a sheep or two. But if you don't, most important resources are not available to you, and the trip across the ocean may not be a very safe one either. On the other hand, you might just get very lucky and spawn with a village in sight. In that case, go ahead and start making your way there, as a village will provide you with the shelter you need, and will usually have food and a handful of other helpful resources to get you started. Villages can generate in the plains and meadows, in taiga forests, in the savanna, in snowy areas, and even in the desert. But for now, let's assume that your spawn isn't terrible and it's not fantastic. The first resource you're going to need is wood. So head over to a nearby tree and start punching it with the attack destroy button. You'll notice that cracks start to form on a block as you're breaking it, and when it's finished breaking, it will drop the appropriate item if it is a block that drops items. We'll talk about it a bit more in its own video, but for now, it's important to know that once you remove all the log blocks from out of a tree, the leaves will start disappearing on their own. This is called decay. And when leaves disappear, they have a chance to drop a couple of items, the most common of which are sticks and saplings. Sticks are used in quite a few recipes and will remain useful throughout every stage of the game. As for saplings, you can replant them to grow new trees. Just click the Use button on grass, dirt, coarse dirt, rooted dirt, or moss. Dirt path blocks are the only similar blocks that saplings can't be planted on. If you're cutting down oak or dark oak trees, leaves also have a chance of dropping apples, which are of course a food source and can ultimately help you craft one of the best foods in the game. Now that we have some logs, we're going to go ahead and open up our inventory. Alright, let's pause for a moment and talk about the heads-up display, or HUD, and your inventory. The 9 item slots you see at the bottom of the screen are called your hotbar. And on touch controls, you can tap on these to select them. On controller, use the bumper buttons to scroll between them. Or on keyboard and mouse, you can scroll through them with your mouse wheel, or press the number keys above the main portion of your keyboard to jump to any individual item slot that you want. Above that is your experience bar. There's not much we need to talk about with that just yet, but that will be useful later on in the game. For now, you can generally ignore it. The 10 hearts represent your health. Each half a heart is considered 1 hit point, so you begin with 20 hit points. To the right of that are some little drumstick-looking icons. This is your hunger bar, or your food bar. As long as your food bar is full, or at least at 90%, which means 9 of those 10 little haunches full, your health will slowly regenerate over time. If your hunger bar gets completely empty, you will begin taking damage to your health bar, depending on what level of difficulty you're playing on. Now, within our inventory, we have 41 available item slots. There are 27 inventory slots, with 9 hotbar slots below that. And you can click and grab items and move them around wherever you choose. Next to your character, there are 4 armor slots as well as an offhand slot. Now, on Bedrock Edition, the offhand slot is only used for the shield and a select few other items. On Java Edition, you can put just about anything you want here, so this is an additional inventory slot, as well as being usable alongside whatever you have selected in your hotbar. Once you do get armor, you can place your armor into the appropriate slot, and that will equip it. When we do that, you'll notice that we have a new section on our HUD. We have an armor section. All this measures is the approximate protection you get from your armor. The 3.5 icons that we have there are just a measure of how much protection you would get versus a set of better armor. As far as manipulating items, when it comes to controller, there should be tooltips that pop up over individual items, telling you that you can take 1, you can take all, take half. For keyboard and mouse, there are some specific differences. Clicking on an item will pick it up, and clicking it again will set it back down. If there are multiple items, it will pick up all of them, and it will set down all of them. If you right-click, it will split the grouping in half, and one half will be left behind in the inventory, and the other half will be connected to your mouse to move around. If you have items in hand, you can right-click to drop a single item, or left-click to drop the entire grouping. Once you have items picked up, if you left-click and drag, the game will attempt to evenly split these across as many cells as you drag through, and then when you release it, will place them down. Double left-clicking on one of these will pick them all back up. If you right-click and drag, the game will simply drop one into every slot you drag over. Some other functionality that is available in here, on controller there is a button for quick move. On keyboard it is holding the shift button. If you left click while holding shift over an item, it will attempt to put it where it belongs. In the case of armor, it will jump it up to the armor slot. If you click on something in the inventory, it will shoot it down into the first open space on your hotbar, whereas if you do this with something from your hotbar, it will shoot it into the first open space on your inventory. Likewise, an item like the shield will attempt to go into the offhand slot. Items that are equipped to you, if you do this too, will try to jump back down into your inventory. You can arrange your hotbar however you like. For me personally, since I play on keyboard and mouse, I like to have some of my most used items in the first 3 slots because I can reach the 1, 2, and 3 number keys from the same fingers that I use for movement. And then I like to have my second most used items over in the right hand, because once I click the number 1 button to jump to my first slot, I can easily rotate back around to the other side using the mouse wheel. That will be different for everyone. It's up to you and how you want to do things. And with that, let's get back into our survival world. Within the inventory interface, there is a crafting section. Go ahead and place all those logs into the crafting grid, the 2x2 here. And then the output will show spruce planks. We're going to go ahead and take all of those planks and immediately use them to craft a crafting table. And to do that, we're going to place planks in all 4 of the spots, and now we can make ourselves a crafting table. And before I do anything else, I'm going to take half of these planks and turn them into sticks. We do that by placing them above each other in the crafting grid. And now I have plenty of sticks. And you'll notice immediately in the upper right hand corner quite a number of new recipes that are unlocked here. This button opens your recipe book, and it will show you what you can make with what you have. But for now, we're going to go ahead and exit this interface, and we're going to select our crafting table and hit the use button to set it down on the ground. With it on the ground, we can hit the use button again on it, and you'll see that there's quite a number more options that show up in our recipe book. And in fact, our crafting grid through the crafting table is 3x3 instead of 2x2. This gives us access to a lot more items. Clicking on the items to the left will automatically fill in what is needed for that recipe. So let's go ahead and click. And if you click on it multiple times, it'll fill more than one. But let's go ahead and make ourselves a pickaxe by clicking on it and taking the pickaxe. Let's make a sword, and let's make a wooden axe. And you know what? While we're at it, we may even go ahead and make a shovel. This is our first set of tools. This will help get us through, and then we can use the axe to break the crafting table back down. We can actually do this with any tool, but since it's a wood-based block, it will break faster with the axe. After that, I would immediately recommend cutting down 2 or 3 more trees if you have the time. So for now, I have 12 wood. That should be good enough. It's time to go looking for some sheep. And here we have a couple right here. I'd love to do this the more humane way, but we don't have any iron yet. So, clicking the attack destroy button will use your sword if your sword is selected. And I need 3 of them. And unfortunately I need 3 of them of the same color. As we come back over by one of the trees we cut down, we can see sticks and saplings laying on the ground. Go ahead and collect those for now. There are also some wolves in this area, which May not be the greatest for me because it means they will attack sheep. There we go. There's our last victim. Sorry, sheep. Now that we have 3 wool on hand, we can plop down our crafting table again. We can click on it, and you'll notice that a bed is now unlocked in the recipes. We'll create a bed. That will give us a significant advantage for the nighttime. For the moment, let's just gather our crafting table back up. And now that we have a bed, we're in a good spot for the night. We even have a little bit of food. But what we don't have yet is light. I do recall there being some caves nearby, so we're going to go searching for those. Oh, we do have some berries. We can either destroy the bush, or we can click the use button on it to pick the berries. Berries are not a great source of food, but for now, since I don't have much, they will work well in a pinch. But just be careful because the bushes hurt. Clicking the use button on food and holding it will allow you to eat. Make sure to watch the whole animation to ensure that you eat. Okay, I found what I was looking for. We have a cave entrance right here. We do want to be very careful. We're very vulnerable right now. But we can select our pickaxe. We want to start grabbing some stone, and you'll notice that as well gives us an achievement. So click on your attack destroy button and hold it down. And then this blotchy, patchy stone with black dots in it, this is coal. This is one of the items that is definitely worth getting on the first day if you can. However, we'll talk about an alternate method for that in just a moment. Oh dear. That's probably enough. I do want to be safe. I want to also make sure that I have at least 11 stone. Now that we have coal, we can open our inventory again. And we can take some of our sticks. And if we put coal above the stick, we can create torches. And this gives us our first light source. If you weren't able to find coal or you're running out of time, once you get yourself a safe area, or if you still have plenty of daylight, we can place our crafting table down. And now we have, with the stone, we have the option to make a furnace. We're going to go ahead and make one of those and set it down right next to our crafting table. Doesn't really matter where, just ensure you are safe. Keep in mind that anytime you are in your inventory, this does not pause the game. In fact, in Bedrock Edition, there is no pause function to the game. In Java, if you open your menu, this will pause the game. But if we click Use on the furnace, we can put some of our remaining logs up in here. We're going to start with just one up top and one in the bottom. The item up top is the item that is being smelted. The item in the bottom is the item being used for fuel. And this little fire bar shows progress. So one log can smelt down 2 items. What we'll get out of this is charcoal, which works the same as coal, but they cannot be stacked together. Now that we have charcoal, either one of these, coal or charcoal, can be put in as fuel and will be a lot more efficient. They can smelt 8 items. So now that we have our first one, we can go ahead and stick 8 logs into the furnace. And while we sit and wait on that, we can be doing other things, and we can come back to this when it's ready. There's also an animation on the front that will tell us when the furnace is working. So when we see that that flame there goes back to black, we know it's time to come back and collect our items. Now, if you manage to gather enough stone, what you can do while you're waiting on your coal to smelt, or your charcoal, is to come into here and start making yourself some stone tools. So, for example, a stone pickaxe. We'll make a stone axe and a stone sword. I'm not worried about the shovel quite yet because we don't use it as much, but you may want to make one, and that's totally fine. Meanwhile, it looks like our furnace is done smelting. We can take out the charcoal. Now what we can do is use either our charcoal or our coal. And we could have done this first, but if we have meat and certain other items, we can cook our food in the furnace. Additionally, most wooden items can also be used as fuel. They will not be as efficient as coal or charcoal, and there are a few other fuel sources as well. But if you're ever curious, you can try putting things in this bottom slot to see if it will take it. If it doesn't work as fuel, it won't go in the slot. Now we have cooked mutton instead of regular mutton, and the reason we do this is because it will refill more of our hunger bar. And if we want to collect the furnace again, the pickaxe is our tool. When it comes to most blocks that are created using stone or similar types of materials, you'll want to use the pickaxe to collect them. And since we happen to be here, I'll go ahead and point out that this is lava. For now, avoid this. It's very dangerous. Well, it's almost nighttime, so it's time to keep an eye on the sky. You can place your bed down anywhere you like. The moment you first start seeing stars, you should be able to click the use button on your bed, and you will bypass the night. And if you sleep as soon as you are able to, hostile enemies will not have time to spawn up above ground. But let's say that you didn't have a bed, or for some reason you weren't paying attention and it had already gotten dark. Well, the easiest way to get safe is to actually find the side of a hill, not a cave, not yet, and start digging into the side of it. Then we can block off the entrance by using the use button with blocks in hand, and hopefully you have a light source and you can place the light source down. And this will allow us to continue working as we can dig for some stone, look for some other resources underground without fear of being attacked. The downside to this is I can't see what time of day it is. So you could leave yourself a little hole. Just keep in mind that there are some enemies that can make their way through here. So it may be better to just open it up and check and close it back up. When morning comes, be careful exiting your hole, as monsters will have spawned overnight. Like that skeleton there, who will shoot at us. We'll talk about hostile mobs in another video, but for now, it's probably safest to avoid them for your first couple of days. Hello, zombie. So what do you do if you did find yourself in one of these terrible spawns? Well, the simplest answer is to just leave. Go start exploring. If you're in a desert, for example, you may be lucky enough to stumble across a village, since they do spawn in deserts. And while Badlands can be pretty barren, there is a variation of it called Wooded Badlands that does generate trees. And often, Badlands are next to deserts, so you could also luck out and find a village here as well. And while jungles themselves may be a bit dangerous for a new player, they often border a biome called sparse jungle, which I would argue is one of the 3 best locations a player can start in. If you end up in the snowy mountainous areas, Just use your high vantage point to get a look around, and then pick your way down carefully. Oh, in this case, we have plains with a village not too far away. Just keep an eye on your steps as you make your way down, and look very carefully for texture changes in the snow. It's not easy to see, but powder snow has a little bit more of a snowflake look on the top of it than regular snow does. And additionally, these thin snow layers will only form on these solid snow blocks, but not on the powder snow blocks. So keep your eyes open when you see this slight height variation over here. This is powder snow. And if you do end up on an island out in the middle of the ocean, hopefully you have one that has some trees on it, or you at least grab the bonus chest and got some wood. If that's the case, I highly recommend just building a boat and leaving. Just look out for structures like this one that you see in the distance under the water and avoid them for now. And if you do happen to spawn near a village, some of the houses may have beds inside, which you can either use or take. Some may even have chests with food or other goodies inside of them. And there are usually crops or other resources such as hay bales, which can be broken down into wheat, and the wheat can be crafted into bread. If in fact you are very lucky, you may even be able to find things such as iron or diamonds in some of the village chests. Alright, well for now that's it. You've survived your first day in Minecraft. There is so much more to talk about. I apologize I can't cover it in a short video, but we'll have numerous topics to build on this one. So for the moment, go exploring, go learn your world, and as always, thank you for watching.